Welcome to Speaking in Spoons, the Chronically Ill podcast, with your host, Christina Brookman.
Hi, my name is Christina Brookman, and what just happened? Am I on mute?
No, I can hear you.
That's getting cut. Okay. Hi, I'm Christina Brookman, and your host for Speaking in Spoons, with my lovely co-host Lexi and Nate, or Dr. Nate.
Dr. Nate.
I think that Dr. Nate sounds more dumb.
Dr. Nathan?
Oh, use my
Dr.
last name.
Strauss?
Yeah, there you go.
Dr. Strauss. And when you get your, I've asked actually if you have gotten your diploma yet. So when you get your diploma, you need to make it your background. So we have
next
Dr.
year.
Strauss. Yeah. So this is episode 2, part 2. We had such a lively discussion last week with Bill Jenkins and Beth about medical trauma and what we know now is not gaslighting, but we wanted to do a follow-up, and we're gonna kind of share our own stories, do our reflections about what was talked about last week, and then share some stories that followers have sent in. But first, I'd like to kind of pass the conch around and check in with everybody and see how you're doing and if you have anything to share with our followers today. Nate, you're looking very, Dr. Strauss, you're looking very serious.
Oh, I'm trying not to move so that the camera doesn't focus on me.
Just breathe, relax. It's okay.
Well, what exactly do you need me to say about?
The camera's not focusing on me at all. I think it doesn't like me. I'm okay with that.
It's green, so, and now it's on left.
I see you all the time.
Because
I think the algorithm is that it doesn't focus on, it focuses on you more than it focuses on the other person that they're seeing.
Oh, that would make sense.
I mean, everybody's a little bit vain, right? So they algorithmed for that.
There you go.
Just kidding.
Okay, so Dr. Strauss, how's your week been?
Oh,
how you doing?
How
are
week,
you? Yeah. Tell our followers, they want to know you.
It's hard going, still just not really sure where I am. I feel better in a lot of ways, but in some ways I'm still not where I would like to be in my physical capabilities. Like, I can't drive anymore. I haven't been able to run for 7 years. I mean, not well. I could run, but I'm worried about falling over when I run, so I'm not running.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big fear.
But a lot of
it's a legit fear,
yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of things are, like, my mood is better, my emotions are better, like my skin, I think, is a little bit better. My energy's better. I guess things are okay, and I'm just gonna stay the course, keep doing what I'm doing, and hope that I continue an upward trajectory for a little bit.
Yeah, that's good. Like, every day we wake up and choose, right? So I don't know. You seem a lot happier to me, which makes me happy.
I am happier. I have a lot of gratitude for every day, because every day is the best day because it's the only day, so it's the best.
I like that.
That Kung Fu Panda turtle thing.
Is that I need to see that.
Kung Fu Panda, the first.
I know, right?
Oh man, I won't spoil his quote for you then.
I should watch it. I mean, I lost my nerd credits with my roommates because I hadn't watched Star Trek Next Generation. So they
Oh,
are
it's so
educating me.
good. How?
Yes,
How?
Any of
I
it?
have no I have Captain Kirk on my wall. So
Oh, you watched
anyways,
the
But
original trick. That's
it's very
allowed.
nostalgic for me. But
No, it's
But
very
Phoenix
nerd.
looks just like Data's cat.
oh, I did okay, I haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay. Like
Okay.
you're gonna be completely obsessed. You're gonna be completely
Speaking,
obsessed after you
I
find out.
probably will. Speaking of Phoenix, I'm going to steal the conch for a second.
go for it.
I'm very excited to share. I entered him in for followers that don't know. Phoenix is my cat. I had a lovely service dog, Rue, for about 9 years. She was 10. She passed this February. When I found out I shouldn't have kids, and then later I cannot physically have kids. I adopted Rue as my child, and my parents were wonderful and humored me and treated her like a grandchild. They were very good to her. So it's a big loss for the whole family. But Phoenix, uh, I got as a kitten, and he has an autoimmune disorder. So
Really?
it's harder for him to get adopted. Yeah. And I was like, well, we know autoimmune in this family, so come on in. And he's hours of entertainment. Anyways, I entered him a online photo contest, like where you win like a package to get photos of your animal. And I just thought it was probably another scam. No, turns out it was real. And I bombarded them with his pictures so much, he won.
Yay!
Because he's adorable. So I'm really excited because I can't afford to get his picture done. And so this is very special.
And you want to
And we
like
get to get it
capture the
together,
kitten
I
years.
think. Yeah.
You
And so my
always
friend's
want.
gonna take me in my wheelchair and help me so I can be a part of it too. So that
Oh.
I'm so excited. I will post more pictures of and videos of Phoenix on
You
my
need to cut
walker.
in the
Yeah.
picture of the money one.
Yeah.
You need to post in that one and be like, "This
Oh
is
yeah.
my cat."
Because he looks like he's on a stripper pole. It's pretty
It's
awesome.
amazing.
We had a follower watch his video on his walker because I've been training him to get on my walker in the house and ride it. And one of our followers, her dog does that. So she sent me the video and we posted it on Facebook. But I'll ask her permission if I can post it to YouTube too. Because it's the cutest thing. Anyways, but it's been as bubbly as I sound, it's actually been a very hard week for me and you guys know that. I know, Lexi, you've been dealing with some crazy pain too, but I had a doctor's appointment and it's the first time I've left the house in a while. And every time you leave the house, you can't really control your environmental triggers. And I don't regulate my body temperature. We took a Medicaid ride and it was unair conditioned, as they
Oh,
always are, as much as I ask for air conditioning. And it was I started having a migraine. And when that happens, my neck flops back and forth, along with being like paralyzed and unable to talk. And so the next day, like, it's just been bad. But I just got a massage this morning. Oh, she was so good. I'm gonna do a shout out actually. This was this is my first time with her. She's in Chester, Virginia. So for all of you out there, her name is Linda Meringue, and with Massageology, and she was wonderful. Yeah. And she does packages too. And I wish insurance would cover that because
Yeah, it's weird. It doesn't.
as a
it's weird that
former
it
massage
doesn't.
therapist, I approve. I approve getting
Yeah.
massages, at least just for like the stress level, stress reducer.
It
And
reduces
if
stress
anything,
and
for
yeah.
placebo.
Yeah. So, Lexi, how are you doing?
I
I
went
can
to
see
the
you're in
ER.
pain.
I went to the ER and because somebody made me. And they
That
found,
sounds like a horrible friend, Lex.
I know, a horrible,
Whoever that
horrible
was.
friend because she knows how much we absolutely despise it. But I went to the new ER in Chester. They seem pretty cool. They're really nice. It was a good, like, so I mean they found something else. My pain got under control. I'm still in pain, but hopefully I won't have to go back to the ER. Hopefully whatever, it's either it'll get bad or it'll get good. So we'll hope it's getting good.
Well,
It's an
yeah.
ovarian cyst. I don't know why I'm like being all like secretive about it. I have PCOS. I have an ovarian cyst, PCOS gals, but so
There
yeah.
you go. Yeah.
Um so yeah. That's it. The pain's been. I had a good day with one of my friends. She took me to an appointment. It was a very, because I'd been in so much pain for a long time before someone told me to go to the ER, and it was like 2 days after, and I had another doctor's appointment that I forgot about because I called out the last week, and she came to my rescue, and mentally, like physically, just like supportively. She really like was like, you have to start advocating better. Like she's
It's
a
hard to
old coworker,
advocate. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but you know, the appointment wasn't bad. The letter that we got afterwards was like, I mean, it shows a lot of how much my migraines are out of control. So I mean,
That's good.
yeah.
You need that letter. It's documentation. It's exhausting on our bodies
I
and
know,
it's
but
stressful.
who wants to live at the ER? We all go through this. We just don't want to live at
I
the
don't
ER
want to
because
go.
of medical
That
trauma.
medical trauma. Speaking of, okay, so let's kind of
I
go
segued
around
in.
past. You did a great segue. I think it's funny because I think there are lots of doctors and nurses in the ER that think some kind of patients want to be there, and are seeking attention, seeking drugs, when really we avoid like hell to go because it hurts. You're there forever and you get treated like crap half the time. Because
Half,
I mean, most of the time, 99.9% of the
90% of the
time,
time.
because unless you have, like Bill was talking about, like unless it's like a broken arm or like some kind of broken bone, you've been shot, you've been stabbed, even with heart attacks with women in particular, like my mom now,
Because
she
they
gets
present
treated well,
differently.
but they present differently, and it's very hard as a woman to be and sometimes even as a man to be treated properly for that. When I went in for my tooth abscess that had developed, I got like creme de la creme treatment. That was fabulous. But anyways, okay, so let's go around and tell us your medical trauma. I know we could write books on it, but maybe there's like one experience or a couple that in particular stays in your mind. Who would like to go first?
Nate, you
Anybody?
got one?
Bueller.
Bueller.
Dr. Nate, you have been
Okay.
elected by the council.
The one time I remember the most traumatic for me was this time I had vertigo. This was when I was still living in Virginia. And
Yeah.
I was dating this one girl, and then when I woke up in the morning at her house, the room was just spinning forever, and I was just vomiting nonstop.
Oh, I hate
Yeah.
that.
It was pretty terrible. And then I went to the ER, I think St. Francis ER, and I made the mistake of telling them I had MS. And after I told them I had MS, all they wanted to do was do tests to show that I had MS. And they stopped looking for what was causing the vertigo.
Mm.
So the bill for that hospital visit ended up being like $1,000 something, and
Wow.
all they did was give me an IV, like a saline solution. But the reason it was $1,000 was because I had a pre-existing condition.
Yeah.
But the nail in the coffin was that the vertigo came back. And this time I didn't go to the ER at St. Francis. I went to an urgent care. I didn't tell them I had MS. I went there, they gave me antibiotics, and the vertigo never came back.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was
That's
near.
good.
Yeah. It was just a lesson in telling hospitals whether I have a pre-existing condition. It
And it's
changes
like
the
a double-edged sword, like, right? Like, because they really do need to know, right? For good patient history.
Yeah.
But as soon as they know, a lot of times they tunnel focus and they don't look at all of the possibilities.
Well, I mean,
Um,
they stopped looking for the cause. They just said, "Oh, so we have the cause. It's your pre-existing condition. So we want to."
right.
They were trying to get me to have an MRI done, and they wanted to order in a specialist. And this bill for this ER was going to be thousands of dollars if I didn't
Were
stop
you
it.
on insurance?
I had insurance, but it didn't cover ER visits. Well, I mean, the only
Uh,
yeah.
Insurance is a scam. Well, it's not a scam. It's necessary, but like the entire thing's a scam. The entire system's a scam.
Our
But
setup is
that's my
definitely broken. It's
Well, it's not.
beyond
so
broken.
It works really well for insurance companies.
Yes,
That is
not really
true.
for us. But yeah.
I'm surprised. What about I'm gonna throw this out there, and Nate, we can cut if you don't want to talk about it. But what about your dad and that journey, and like, would you consider that at all?
Dramatic. Well, I mean, he died on my 30th birthday, like the day after my 30th birthday. So, like January 29th,
Yeah.
2015. And that sent me on this like spiral out of control of trying to, like, because I wasn't really doing a lot with my illness, except, I mean, I was doing martial arts. And I guess I kind of adopted like a paleo diet, but I wasn't really doing a lot. And when he died, it was so, I didn't even realize how dramatic I was because I was so, I guess, disconnected from my feelings. But it sent me on this like tailspin.
And he had MS too, right?
Hmm. He had the
I
same
think,
illness.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen you like
Sorry, Nate.
searching yourself and dealing with that a lot of through the years.
Well, he was
I
only 64 when he died, and I'm
Yeah,
30. That means I only have like 20 years.
but it doesn't mean that, you know,
Well, in my
No,
mind,
it doesn't.
because every case, remember, like we've been talking about, it's just we have to
So,
keep
like,
reminding ourselves of that. And
genetically, they have a term about like something being inter or intra. Like inter means like of how bad it can be like later. Like for the next generation, it can either be inter or intra. Something I can't remember the actual term, but it basically says whether or not it can get like, some people can get worse. Like some people are going to be like worse than their parents. Some people are going to be like worse than their parents. You can
yeah,
only just pray that you're going to be less.
yeah.
Well, not pray, but like, okay, so we might have some people that might get offended from that. So I don't really mean pray. I just mean like hope, wish,
Well, whatever
goodbye.
you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if all you do, you might run into some problems. Like if all you do is pray and wish. I mean, I'm not Christian, but I believe in what Jesus said. God helps those who help themselves.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to change your track that you're on by doing nothing. But I'm not saying the solution is going to work. I've tried so many different things. So it's like I remember when I was doing that anti-candida diet and the
Yeah.
paleo and the Gap.
Yeah, how does that feel? Because like I've wanted to try that. You know, us migraineurs, we've all tried so many different diets. I guess this would be a better for the nutrition, but
Well, yeah, we're actually gonna interview him on that one too. But
yeah.
I will say, Nate, I think all of those people were really, some of those people really were taking, and you expressed this, taking advantage of you in your quest to find a cure and better yourself.
But I mean, it's just the world or the culture we live in. It's
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, allopathic doctor, naturopath, chiropractor. Your business is getting people to be treated by you, and
Right.
so you become like a number. It doesn't matter who you see. It's just It's just. It's just the nature of the game, I guess. So I'm not angry at them. I mean,
You
I
come
don't know.
out
A lot
in a
of
much
them have.
healthier place. Yeah.
well,
I mean,
if I do figure out how to fix me, I'm going to make it publicly available and drive these assholes out of business.
yay.
Good.
Would I wake up every day if I could just fix myself? I will patent it and give it away.
Dan the man, save the empire.
You know, that's just that's how little I care about their well-being. I'm sick of it, and it's just this, like, we've
And
created
that's a trauma too. Yeah.
I just think that, like we were saying, the medical system is a trauma. Just
Yeah.
the way it's built.
Yeah.
Because you don't know who you can trust and who's actually there to help. Because I genuinely believe there are people out there wanting to help
your own
people.
workman's comp.
Well,
They send you to who they want.
I come into this from a person who's very trusting of the medical system. My mother was a nurse. My father was a doctor. My brother's a doctor. I think my uncle is a doctor. Like, it was just entrenched in the medical field. So when I got sick, I went to NIH and I trusted them with my life. And they basically just used me as a guinea pig. And then when their drugs didn't work, they kicked me out. And I think that was a trauma as well. But it wasn't. I don't even know it's not their fault.
But that's not really. Was that really medical or was that research? Because like that wasn't really clinical. That was more research trauma.
Well, it's still trauma either way.
No, it is. I'm not trying to like. I'm just saying like. I mean, I wouldn't take that as a like because it's a research study. Like they were used. It was basically for research and for like and they need those numbers to get the thing out. So like they weren't kicking you out for that. They were kicking you out for statistics, and you shouldn't. Well, like, it's not that they didn't want to help you. I'm sure.
But the process is a trauma.
Oh yeah.
And you think they're gonna help you, and
Well, I mean, this was back when I was trying to be like a good kid. Like I was 25 on my parents' insurance, and I didn't want to go to the doctor and make them pay out. I went to NIH where it was free, and they basically gave me all the things that I would get at a doctor: MRIs up my butt, spinal taps up my butt, blood work, just like everything you could possibly hope for. I got it, and conventional treatment was abound. And that's why by the end of it, 5 years later, when I got kicked out for research purposes, I tried alternative medicine, and it was just as much of a fail in my as conventional. Like, it was the same thing, just different. It looks like it was the same pig, different lipstick. Like, it was just the same approaches, but it was colored differently.
I think it's hard to come to terms whenever there's not a cure. Like if it's something like it's hard to come to terms when the fact that there is no cure, and there's probably scientifically we are so young, and it's gonna take a while. Like we're still babies in the science game.
I mean, but should we be hoping for a cure when I don't know if there's a cure for any illness? Like, is there a cure for any? Can we think of?
But
But I don't know if a cure is a thing. Like, it's just like a word.
better treatments is what we need.
Yeah, like I mean, a lot of what
But
Lexi and I have are genetic. Although we've had the argument about genetics too, but like,
epigenetics, if it's just you have genes, but those genes have to get turned on. Genes don't
Yeah.
just turn on,
Yeah.
turn them on, but you don't know what's turning them on. So that's the problem. Is
Well,
you making yourself worse and not even realize it.
I mean, it can have a lot to do with it also depends on where that gene produces the protein and what function it is in that role. Like, like with our hemiplegic migraines, it can happen in 3 places. It can happen in the neuron, like in the neurotic, it can happen in a bunch of different places is what I'm trying to say. Like,
yeah,
it depends on the function and what that, whether that's a sodium channel or potassium channel or, what
But
kind of,
you don't. But why is your
or
body
environmental.
protein? Like, it's not just making it because it can. It's making it because it's being
Encoded.
we should
yeah.
try to get a geneticist on the show to help us with this.
I can get my friend maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, let's do that. And let's pass the conch to Lexi and
Sorry.
talk about
Yeah,
your
let's-
medical trauma. I know how excited you are to do that.
Like, we should save that for the nutrition talk. Let's talk about Beth and Bill, like what they're,
Yeah.
because that triggered me. Like you mentioned, my dad died, so I really felt for Bill, and I felt Beth with her medical trauma. I was just
Yeah.
like, that is so familiar because I too am upset with the medical establishment.
Yeah.
I do think grieving is like a year long, like years. I'm still not over my
You're
dad.
always grieving, I think.
I don't think it goes
It's
away.
a lifetime of, because you're grieving the life and the body you thought you were gonna have and the dreams you thought you'd be able to have. You're adjusting to what is actually possible. And for some of us, some of these conditions, that's constantly changing. Like, it changes within the day. Like, it's not just, oh, I had a bad week or a bad year. Like, it's sometimes I wake up and I'm good, and then it goes to poop and then I'm fine again. Like, it's constantly, and both of you are like that. And I think a lot of people are out there like that. And like Tim had talked about that too, when we talk about disability in the media or it's represented, those kind of things aren't really represented, like the actuality of, but yeah, like it's a lifetime of grief.
Right. It is. And it's just, it's not
And
fair.
it feels like every doctor's visit is a resurface of it.
Yes. Do you want to talk, Lexi, or do you want me to go?
I'm sorry.
I know you're in pain. I said, do you want me to share, or do you want me to, or wait, are you bleh?
I was talking to Nate. He said something. I heard you.
One thing,
Yeah.
you know how Bill wrote this book about what to do when, was it what were you doing?
When the police leave, yeah.
Right. I feel the same way. Well, I think our conditions are similar in the sense that, like, his son died, but there was nothing to do. So the professionals came and they were like, well, we're done here. I feel that, like, every time I go to the doctor, I feel like, because they don't have any tools really to help me except like 1 or 2, and I don't want some of those. So I just feel like it's the same. So like, what do you do when the doctors are gone? Like, what do you
And
do?
insurance won't pay for PT and OT forever. And like, as we've both discovered, like, because our conditions are constantly changing, you always need PT. You always need
But you have to
OT.
fight for the, like,
It's so defeating though. Like, you make so much progress at PT and then you have one attack and you're back to square one again. Like, I hate that. I hate that.
I have a great physical therapist now. She comes in and in her mind, she's going to be doing something, but that part of my body isn't working. And she's like, okay, let's readjust. This is what we're doing today. And she'll even readjust during the session. Like, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And she'll go do research. I feel bad because she'll research based on what was going on that day and then come in prepared for the next time. But
And
then
then
I've
it's a
got
whole
something
new
else.
circus.
Yeah, it's a whole new, yeah.
Yeah.
Good to see. Hold on to her. Marry that.
I am, yeah. Like, yeah.
Okay, so the new Bon Secours ER is awesome. I just want to say I had an NP that kind of knew what hemiplegic migraines were. I heard her
Woo!
at the desk explaining to the nurses. She's like, "So what's up with this bed?" And she's like, "Oh, it's the worst kind of migraine you can have." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh my God, she knows." And that just was because like how many doctors have you had that know about it? I've had two.
Yeah,
And
it's
one was,
very,
huh?
What kind of are you talking just like the pain level, or do you see is it like a synesthesia type thing where you see
Um,
color?
Mine is more like visual with lights and stuff, so this is like really bugging me, but
but it
it depends.
what
Sometimes
other
it's
people see,
silent,
it looks
sometimes
like
it's
a
painful.
stroke. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we have the head pain, sometimes we don't.
A lot of times
Sometimes,
I don't. It's more of
yeah,
the
because at that point your brain has already gone through the pain, which is
yeah,
why it's so horrible whenever you get like I don't like getting the shots, the rescue shots, because I know the next time I have it I have to go through that pain stage instead of staying in this like
yeah.
wonderful area where it doesn't. But that just means that the sensory is so much that it's starting to cause numbness and paralysis on this side, and it doesn't have to always be paralysis. It can just be numbness, like
I don't
severe
get the
paresthesia.
numbness. That's what weird. I
Can you explain
get like
what it
in
got people?
yeah, so the hemiplegic migraine, when it's triggered like other migraines, like lights, sounds, smells,
Right.
pain. Like with me, like my trigeminal neuralgia and this neck issue that I'm having, that pain will trigger it. And my POTS, like if I get overheated or my blood pressure changes or atmospheric by it, like
Oh,
those
atmosphere
kind,
is my biggest trigger. That
yeah.
and stress.
Yeah, that triggers you a lot. So when it
I can't plan
happens,
for it because it's storm related
yeah, what
or
happens is
not
we
storm.
get an aura, and the way that aura manifests itself looks like a stroke. So like for me, the right side of my it's hemi. So
Well, for
like
me, that's the
some people,
attack.
yeah, she gets both, but the traditional manifestation, like you get the drooping lip like a stroke. Sometimes I can't even open my mouth. Like if I try to talk, it's like slurred. The more you try to talk, yeah, the harder it is to
Because
talk and
you've
for
used
people
your
to
energy.
understand you.
You're using your
Yeah,
energy because you're so
yeah,
exhausted, and just moving your mouth
yeah.
is
And
exhausting.
my right eye will even close up, so people will think I'm sleeping, and I'm like, like, so like the whole right side of my body becomes paralyzed, or very weak. So I will instantly drop to the ground.
Hmm.
That's why I have to be in a wheelchair when I leave the house, and why I
Mine
have to use a
processes a
rollator in
lot
the
longer.
house. Yeah. So that I can instantly sit if I feel it coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That used to be how mine were, but now mine I get like an hour before I know it's coming, or sometimes it's hours or like a day
Yeah.
before it hits. But
You know,
yeah, it's terrifying.
It's really scary. You can't communicate everybody, even though they say they'll be okay. Like I have that cheat sheet. It's got my name, my birthday, my address, all my doctor's names, what they treat me for, their phone numbers, the
Oh, mine's
ERs
not
that
that
I
detailed.
prefer to go to, what I need at the ER if this happens, like the cocktail, what it is, all of my allergies and what happens, all of my medications in alphabetical order. And then I even I'm so OCD. I typed up the time I do my medicine by the time I take them, and how I take them. So
That's
that
brilliant.
thank you. It's been very helpful because it's scary for caretakers, like for my parents or for my caretaker or my roommates. But then they have this information. And my doctors have also copied it too. But like whenever I leave the house, I have this with me. So that if
Yeah.
anything happens, they've got it. And they're not like because they panic, and they can just go here, you know. Um and that helps communicate. But sometimes the doctors and nurses are panicking themselves because of what they see. They don't want to look at the paper and they don't want to read it. They just go, oh, she's having a stroke, and they're trying to, and they should act, if it gets that bad, you should be checked for a stroke.
Yeah.
But if I'm able, I always tell people, I'm like, if I can answer yes or no questions with a thumbs up or a thumbs down, then I'm okay. My brain is still clicking and I can hear you and it's all good.
Mine gets to a paralysis level that either I'm paralyzed fully, like all the way, or
Yeah.
like I might have like some, I can talk, but like my arms and everything. I've really gotten good at talking through them. I've really trained myself to be able to be good at talking through them.
That's good.
But I think that's just because of all the theater and,
Well,
I
think it depends on the well, my trainee,
well,
I
it
was a
depends on
voice
the
and
person.
speech coach for a while. I mean, like brief,
Yeah.
like I helped in the voice lab in college, and then I had one client outside of college. So it's not, but
You're right.
but
It's because mine, I've had some like that where it goes. I
yeah.
wasn't thinking of
And
those.
my
Sorry.
speech therapist was like, stop trying to talk, Christina, because for you, it's making it would make the rest of it worse too.
Yeah.
And make it last longer. So I guess that for me probably has been my worst medical trauma is these
And the thing
episodes.
is, you need to just stay at home to rest.
Yeah.
And
but
you have to go out to the ER, and that just makes everything worse.
To get the damn cocktail. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the cocktail? That was my question. What is a rescue shot?
It depends on where you go.
A lot of times it's Benadryl, Tramadol, Reglan. Yeah, like those three together at the same time. It's a typical migraine rescue cocktail. Like it's not any different from, with me, sometimes they'll add fentanyl because of my trigeminal. Like if it's being triggered by the trigeminal, and I won't come out of it unless that is getting controlled. Yeah.
So they'll give you
Mine is normally Toradol, Compazine, and Phenagrin.
Toradol, that's what I meant to say, not Tramadol.
Yeah.
Tramadol is like taking water.
And then sorry.
We're talking too fast.
No, I mean they're trying to get your muscle spasms under control. And your pain levels.
Yeah. Basically. And then they hydrate you, which a lot of us need. And then because I think an NIH researcher said that also, like, you generally are low on you are low on iron and magnesium, which is why that helps a lot of people. But no, I guess it can be, it's really scary, especially if you're going double-sided.
And especially if people panic and yell at you while it's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really painful for me. Like that my entire side or whatever it is, I have paresthesia, so it feels like bees underneath my skin stinging me all the time.
Yeah.
Which is different than like nerve pain, which is like deep pain. This is like my skin always feels like it's itching, and it happens so much now that it's constant on the right side that I feel like there's bees. It's annoying. It's annoying as hell. But and then you get the rescue shot and you have a day of where it's like, yay, I don't feel
and then it goes right
and then
back.
You get that pain again. And you're like, why did I fucking do that? But nobody wants to spend their days in the ER, especially whenever your ER is like, my two biggest incidents of like medical neglect, medical abuse and trauma was I had been seeing this doctor with my hemiplegic migraines for like 7, 8 years. He had been there whenever I had gotten originally diagnosed. And I had been, at this point, I'd seen 3 other neurologists in Richmond, and they were sending me to Johns Hopkins. And he was like, you are crazy. You are making this up because migraines don't do this. even though 3 neurologists have been like, yo, this is what it is. He's like, but this is the guy that's like 80 and he can't see, and the only research he's doing is whatever the pharmaceutical companies are coming and telling him. Because the only reason I got most of my diagnosis was because he told me a pharmaceutical rep came through and educated me on this. So let's see if you have it. Like, you know,
Wow.
that, so I mean, I should have known better, but I was just, you know, I had been in my 20s, you know, holistic. I did not want to go to the doctor at all. And I don't like doctors. It's not like something I want to do. But, you know, that's the job now. That is the job. Being disabled is just doctors and insurance companies. And there's no other time for anything else. And that in itself is a medical trauma. And then the other one that I can most certainly think of is, well, it's legal in our state now. Is like I was at a place and my doctor hadn't given me meds in 3 weeks, even though we kept calling. And so I ended up in their ER and I was like, I need my meds. And they're like, you're just like this because you smoke cannabis. And I'm like, no, I'm like this because you haven't given me my meds for 3 weeks. You know, and she just is so rude and like she was just mean, you know, and you get the ER nurses and half of them are just mean. And then you get some that are really nice. And, you know, I get it's a stressful job and doctors
They're
suicide
understaffed, they're underpaid. I think they're definitely
suicide rates are 10%.
undertrained for ER
Yeah.
experiences, doctors and nurses.
But
And
I'll
like
tell
you
you,
said,
I'd
you get,
rather,
it's sad that you can get really great nurses, but just that one experience with that bad, rude nurse or doctor that makes you feel like you're crazy and you're stupid for coming in and you're wasting their time and all of this, that trauma makes you never want to go because you don't know who you're gonna get.
yeah. And then, you know, you ask for a referral and it takes like 3 visits to get like a medication because they forget every time, or like the referral is useless because it's just something that doesn't do that. And you're like, you know, I mean, it's just the runaround of everything is just exhausting. And when you're exhausted on top of it, I got chronic fatigue. So, like, it's just too much. It's like my waking hours are either this or medical calls.
Yeah. And I get the people will talk to me and be like, what's your pain level? And I'm like, oh, and I'm at a 7 or 8. And then they try to explain the pain scale to me. And I'm like, excuse me, do you live in chronic pain or have a chronic pain condition? And they're like, no, but this is what it means. And I was like, I know what it means. This is my personality. What you're seeing is my personality. If I stop talking, that means I'm at a 10,
Yeah.
you know? But
Yeah.
I rarely get to a 10. I live between a 7 and a 9 these days. I'd like to live at a 5. That's why I'm having neck surgery coming up.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't but
I say that my pain level is like a 6 or 7, and I tell them like my 10 is not wishing you will die. My 10,
yeah,
like my crying is like 8. Crying is an 8. And
yeah.
these new ones are like, if you're crying, you're a 10. And I'm like, bullshit.
I have ones that tell me if I'm crying, I'm probably a 6 or a 7 because I'm not like screaming. And I'm like, everybody expresses pain differently.
Yeah.
And particularly chronic pain versus acute pain. Like if you're used to living daily in pain, you exhibit it differently. And I have a bubbly personality and I like to handle my pain through humor because that's how I get through it. But if I stop laughing, if I stop wanting to talk, that's when shit's gone bad. Like that's when I can't handle it at all.
And that's what I hate, because you go into an appointment like that and you can't shut up and they just think you're a rambling, anxious woman, and it's shooting yourself in the foot, I feel.
Yeah, it's hard. And I think there's a lot of, I'm learning as we're going through this, you know, that we're not alone. And it's sad to know that there's so many people out there also experiencing a lot of this and their own different experiences. But it's also comforting in a way to know that while sometimes the medical profession doesn't get it, like there are other people with chronic illnesses and disabilities that get it, and hear us and understand what we go through every day. And that's huge. We have a support system. And, everybody on Speaking in the Spoons, like we support you guys out there that are writing us and like I had a lovely woman send a video this week actually. And she has endometriosis and hemiplegic migraines, and I was also a theater it's just and so she videotaped herself going through one of her speech, like an episode where she was having difficulty speaking, and it wasn't a hemiplegic, it was a type of seizure. And I haven't asked her yet if I can share it. If she's willing for me to share it, I'll post that to our YouTube channel. Because I think, when we see other people, it's some of us are very visual, so it helps to see that and understand, what somebody's going through. I will say I know like the ERs and these migraines that we get, but I also, when I was a kid, I had a doctor give me a medication without my permission. And it was something that I didn't want to take. And it was given to me without my knowledge, like just mixed in with other meds. And I gained 60 pounds in 30 days and developed acne. And I was horrified. And my parents really advocated for me at that moment. Like they called the doctor and they're like, you tell us how to titrate her off, or we're going to figure it out ourselves. But that experience, I have a surgery coming up, and I'm kind of terrified because the last time I had major surgery, I was married. I had my person in my room, and that made me feel safe. I'm very fortunate. My best friend is coming up. She's my POA. My parents are going to be there, but it's still like, I've been getting more and more anxious. And after listening to Bill and Beth last week and talking about medical trauma and childhood trauma, I even called Beth and we talked through some things, and then I had counseling, and I was like, wow, this one experience where my decision, like my medical decision, was taken away from me, that was very that trust, that betrayal, that was very traumatizing for me. And I'm very scared going into the surgery. So I'm trying to put some things in place, like my wishes and all of that. But it's, when you can't take care of yourself and you're dependent upon other people,
Yep.
that's very scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people out there go through that, like acutely and chronically. And it's there's a woman who's part of the Ehlers-Danlos group in Richmond, who we're friends on Facebook, and she's been going through a lot of stuff like surgeries, and I think she just had a stroke recently. And talking about that grieving process that we were talking about, and also having to relearn how to do things. And I know my uncle had a stroke. That's actually why the Speaking in Spoons, because Nate was asking me about that last week, and I had seen on Etsy a spoon. I'd heard about the spoon story. And then I'd seen a necklace with a spoon on it that had stamped in it, she be but little, but, and theater people don't hate me, I'm gonna misquote it, but
She
it's
be but
Shakespeare.
little, but she is fierce.
Yes. And I love that. And I identified with that and made me feel like a warrior. And I posted this and I was like, someday I'm going to get this. And I posted the spoon theory, and my uncle, like later, like a couple months later, I get this package, and he identified with the spoon theory, and during his therapy, and kind of having to, because he was a mechanic, so like losing that capability of his hands, like that's very traumatic and grieving, like that's part of his identity, who he is. And so he decided to get a bunch of spoons and like turn them into capable of being necklaces. And then he got stamps and taught himself how to stamp onto the spoons and made me a necklace with that quote and mailed it to me. And I still have it. Like, I can't wear it right now because of my neck pain, but I love that necklace. It means a lot to me. And it means a lot that he identified with that, and that helped him. So yeah. Um yeah, the grieving process, the trauma, and this woman, I'm gonna let her share more of her story on our next episode. But she has a very rare disorder that has caused her, she used to be a runner like you, Nate, and she has a rare disorder that has degenerated her knees basically. And she has had to have like 3 knee replacement, like surgeries, all the stuff. She can't run anymore. She has to use a cane, and she says people treat her, they're very rude to her and very discriminatory, because she's young, and using these things, and they just think she's lazy, which is what we get a lot, or we're faking it kind of thing to get the good parking space.
That good
Because
parking space. What I would do for that.
only old people need like walkers and canes and stuff. Not true.
I
But
love when doctors are like, "How long have you had that?" And
yeah,
you're like,
or they're shocked when you stand up out of your wheelchair, because a lot of people, and Tim brought this up too the other week, not everybody that is in a wheelchair is paralyzed. A lot of them, they use it as, ambulatory, like, um but anyways, so she can no longer do the things she's wanted, and she has started like a blog website talking about medical uses of cannabis, like edible cannabis, and
mm-hmm.
she's for pain uh relief, and she is going to be on our show, our third episode. And yeah, so I'm excited. I think that a lot of people will benefit from what she has to say, and her story as well. So I know I kind of rambled there. Does anybody have anything to say or thoughts?
No, just that medical trauma can come from like so many different, like, I mean, medical trauma can come from, the medical issues. But insurance companies are a big part of medical trauma. I
Yes.
think, and I think that should be addressed. And I think that it's more important. I mean, like, trauma in itself is just, there's so much trauma, and like you said, so much grief. And everybody processes it differently, and it's constant grief with this, like, though, I
Yeah.
feel.
And you really need a good support system. Like, I'm
Yeah.
so grateful we have each other. I feel like a lot of my friends these days have some kind of disability or chronic illness, because we you guys get it, and we support each other. And I posted this the other day. I said, it's really important to reach out to your friends and loved ones and check in on them. And I think I learned that especially during COVID. But a lot of people, when you get sick, when you become disabled, they're there for like the first month, the first week. But then they kind of, Alexi's like, they're never there. But then they kind of peter away. You know, a lot of people assume you have family helping you or things like that. But, you know, a lot of people don't have family, or they have family that can't help them because they're older or also disabled and have health issues or live far away, or they have, you know, personal issues with family that make it complicated. So if you love someone, and you should just keep checking in on your people, um keep being there to support your people with and without disabilities. I mean, we all need people, right? Which kind of goes into the gaslighting issue, which I do want to talk about really briefly, because I think that's really important. Or the not gaslighting, I don't know what to call it.
First off, did you watch it?
No, I haven't gotten to watch it yet, but I'm going to. I'm going to. It's on my list, along with all Star Trek Next Generation.
Okay.
But I, you know, when people don't believe you, and I think I'd
I
like
think that's the
to
biggest
share my
trauma.
mom's story, because my whole life people didn't believe her about her issues, and then in my 20s I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos and POTS, and then because I was diagnosed, she was diagnosed. But she spent most of her adult life not being believed, and I think lost friendships, lost loved ones, and that has really affected her. And I have had people not believe me, but not nearly to the extent of my mom. And I think some of that is where we are medically. Like, some of these doctors didn't really know about Ehlers-Danlos as much. And I mean, in Richmond, it's in Virginia, it's still really not known very well. I was very lucky to be in Ohio at the time, near Cincinnati Children, where my geneticist was, and I traveled to see him and then was connected with other specialists.
Mhm.
Will disclude the crazy neck surgeon who is now in Pakistan and wanted by the FBI from the list of great contacts. But
I want to get
you
him.
don't have your friends trust you, your romantic relationships trust you, your family trust you, believe you. That's even worse than doctors, because doctors, I'm like, well, you don't know this because you didn't get taught and you don't live it every day and you don't know me. But yeah, I'm gonna pass the conch, or throw the conch. Anybody want to talk to that?
I mean, I very well know everyone telling you that you're crazy, you're a hypochondriac. You know, one of my friends, you know, she with my even when I had PCOS, it was a fight to get her to believe that I had it. And then like I lived with her for a long time, and then wasn't until after we stopped living together, and I'd been having hemiplegic migraines to the point where like I had to drop out of school. And you know, it wasn't until after we stopped living together that she even looked and saw what it was. And then she's like, "Oh," and you know, and it's a great moment when they come around.
Yeah,
And it's a great moment when they finally like take the effort, and you know, you try to educate, but it generally falls on deaf ears because, you know, people aren't ready to hear anything until they want to hear it.
yeah,
And but it's incredibly lonely. It's incredibly lonely because most people's reaction, because they don't understand how you can go from doing everything to just completely on the bottom rung, like just they don't understand it. They don't understand how you can get everything swiped out from underneath you.
yeah,
And you know, if it is quick, or if it's, you know, just degenerative, like even that, to you it feels a lot more. You can feel how much it takes from you every day, but they
yeah,
can't see. And you know, and a lot of them don't want to see it because then it would make them, especially with genetic stuff, because nobody in the family wants to admit that there's possibly something that they might have too.
My parents feel humongous guilt for like creating me because my disorders are genetic.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm glad you did, but
I mean, I'm like, you guys could have passed each other. You didn't have to meet at the bar. You could have gone to a different bar.
But then we went to you, Lexi. But that does get into, we are having an episode on planning family. A huge controversial issue is the choice to have or to not have kids with a lot of these disorders. So we can, that'll be an interesting conversation, I think.
One of the most beautiful movie moments I saw was in that movie. What was it called? With the squid alien people behind the barrier.
Oh, Alien. Not Alien.
Why am I thinking of Mars Attacks? But they're not.
No. You're talking about one where she's like essentially like a linguist, and she gets sent to. I'm gonna.
Amy Adams.
Yes, Amy Adams.
Or is it Isla? They look the same.
That movie that I found really interesting about our situation, about some, with genetic situations.
Rival.
This woman was given a vision of her future with a daughter, but she knew that the daughter was going to die of some genetic disorder. But she had the daughter anyway because those moments that she spent with her child were the most beautiful. And even if it had an ending that was not, perfect, it was worth it.
I'm going to save my thoughts for the actual episode.
It was a movie.
But people can watch the
really good movie.
And then we can have this great conversation. Thanks, Nate. I love that movie.
Yeah, I thought emotionally, I thought it was wow. Didn't think, really just every day is a gift in a lot of ways. I've come to realize that it's just every day that you can breathe, every day you wake up and breath fills your lungs. That's life.
But sometimes whenever your life is just living in a dark room, you just, and the good days are so far away from each other. It's easy to lose sight of that.
Well, and you're also, Lexi, you're fighting for your basic needs of survival. You
get to do that if you were dead. I'm just saying, even when it sucks, it really, really sucks. It's still better than the alternative because you get to struggle. That's your gift. If you see it as that,
I'm done struggling. I've had enough. No,
I feel that, Lexi. I'm not gotta remember you're where Lexi was months ago. Or I mean, do you get what I'm saying? This Nate that we're talking to, that you're meeting, Lexi, I have not known this Nate for this is a new Nate, and I love seeing this Nate. Yeah,
I'm glad it's a healthy
you're in
Nate.
such a good place.
I mean, sucky days, but I feel like I've just turned a corner in that even the sucky days are just so wonderful because
cherish them. Yeah,
you get to feel the suck. I wouldn't be able to feel the suck. I shouldn't phrase that differently, but I should feel.
Don't get me wrong. I love the good days.
We wake up every day and we choose. And Lexi, you're still choosing.
I love the good days. I do love the good days. It's just the good days are spent doing housework, and then that causes a bad day.
You need to apply for an aid. That's what you need to do.
And I'm doing it.
I was her annoying friend that sent her to the ER.
Oh, I didn't say you were annoying.
Myself.
I didn't say it. I thought I implied that well enough.
You did imply that.
You're not annoying in any way, shape, or form.
I love you.
I mean, you have your track record so far this week of yelling at two friends to go to the ER. You're 2 for 0. So I mean, come on. And that's only the ones I know about. How many people do I not know about?
I think that was it. But yeah, it's yeah. And
there's dark moments, but
they will pass, especially when you get help. It's just that battle. And I was there, when you're fighting for a roof, like I was sleeping on a friend's sofa because the new owners bought my building and raised my rent 60%, and I'm on disability. And I was like, I can't afford $1,300 a month. I can barely afford what I pay now.
Is my two friends. I have two friends. One that pays my rent, which is very, very cheap, because my other friend basically lets me have a room for really, really, really cheap. And we live really, really cheaply. If it wasn't for people, you wouldn't get through it. And now, it's really important.
Where I live now, he turned his sunroom into a bedroom for me, so I have somewhere to live.
Oh.
Like, that's good people.
Yeah. And there's so many good people. Like, you find the good people. I know you lose a lot of people that don't understand. And but you're going to lose people throughout life, but you also are going to gain a lot of people. And it's funny how
you learn who the ones who really love you are.
Yeah. I just found out, I really got a good talking to this week about all of this. And you really do have to try to pull yourself out and control your thoughts whenever it gets this dark. And not like in a suicidal way, but just like to try to pull yourself out of that pain. And I really am going to do a little video audio to kind of because sometimes the pain, especially if you have pain issues, it's hard. And sometimes you just need somebody to talk you through it. And I'm going to put a thing up there for y'all to talk you through it if it gets too bad.
Well, our next episode is on pain, Lexi.
Yay! So that will be recorded this week with my raspy voice.
Oh, well, it's going to be next week, probably.
It'll probably be recorded this week.
Not
this one, but like the thing, the audio file.
Okay, cool. I think that's great. So on that note, thank you so much for listening to us at Speaking with Spoons. And check out our new website. Nate has been doing some wonderful things, playing around with stuff, and we've got a great schedule up for this season. If you have any stories you want to share with us that we can talk about, I'm going to get better at organizing the stories that come in so that I can look at them and share them. But
we should just have a listener stories episode.
We should. That's a great idea.
At the end of the season, we'll have like a listener stories.
I like that idea. Good. And then, but if you would like to be a guest on the show or participate in any way, we'd love to have you. And we look forward.
Follow this video.
Enjoy the chaos.
Have a great a couple of weeks till we see or talk to you again. I'll probably put out some, hellos, and I'm sure they will too. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
If you want to contact us, please send a DM or an email to speakingatspoons@gmail.com with any stories you have, or if you'd like to interview with us on any of our upcoming topics. Thank you for listening to Speaking in Spoons, and have a great day.